Welcome, world. This is 7H Hangout, weekly hangout to practice English. And today's topic, lift and uplift, and expressions with lift, stories with lift. So, how many definitions can you think of for lift as verb, as noun?
The first one, in British English, they use the word lift as a meaning elevator.
Right. And more often in American English, when people name an elevator structure as a lift, it's more often a freight elevator or a cargo and passenger, not just passenger. So elevators are just for passengers, and sometimes we'll use other adjectives or lift. As they do in British English, though, it is a synonym with elevator.
So, how you call in English an elevator only for things, not for people?
So sometimes a lift,
A lift,
sometimes
okay.
a cargo elevator.
Cargo elevator, okay.
But we also use the word lift for machines. Many of them now, the Bobcats and other machines that have a lift attachment that's like a big pitchfork attached to the front of a machine, and it's used to lift objects. So this is another noun, lift, that's used in American English. Ivan, did you get to see my post to see our topic today?
I also singing with this lady on the video.
Singing? Oh, you saw the singing? Some of those songs I thought were terrible. They didn't uplift my spirits at all. But before that, I shared a long, not that long, a list of expressions with lift and different usages. So the word lift, what else? How else have you heard it? How else could you use it?
I need a lift.
I need a lift. And I wrote a note that could be two meanings. So can you think of two different meanings for that?
I need a lift when I need somebody brings me home with a car.
Yes, so a ride, a lift. And it doesn't have to be a car, but into a vehicle, transportation. And you would be riding, not driving.
When I want someone cheering me up,
right? Or you're just really down and draggy, and coffee gives you a lift, right? A caffeine high, so takes you high. Yes, so cheer your spirits up or awaken your brain. Your brain needs a lift. So that's another way. What else?
No.
Nothing else coming to mind? Ivan's quiet.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with lifts. So for me, lift is elevator. It's all what I can think about. All what I can think about.
Oh, really? About the verb lift.
I would use ramp up or something like this.
Really? With all the English that you practice with, the verb, it's a pretty common verb, but it doesn't come to mind. Interesting. Okay, so the noun form very much so, but the verb.
But I think it's just like what's the word for it? It's just because of my Russian language. Because in Russian, lift is always elevator, nothing more. So I subconsciously cannot use it.
So it's interesting you said ramp up, because that's not really a synonym in my mind for lift. So lift is simply raising up. So you lift your voices higher, you raise your voice higher, higher, higher. Sopranos, get to work. And lift the veil in a wedding. The father of the bride often lifts the veil up over the daughter's face to expose her to her soon-to-be husband. This is a tradition that is disappearing.
Yes.
But is an old tradition. The bride has to be covered and yay.
I don't see Me Too women doing that.
Right.
Sound old-fashioned, you know.
Yeah. There's another usage for the same expression, to lift the veil. Come to mind for either of you?
About information?
Can be, yes, information when things are purposely muddied. So some people want to lift the veil to expose politicians' corruption. Well, usually, though, I've seen it used this way politically recently. Prior to this recent usage, it was more often used for something really morbid, sad, evil, perhaps, some gloomy spirit world, and you lift the veil and you see what the truth from the past was. Yeah, but it's used more often recently for all of the corruption that is going viral everywhere. How about lift a finger? Haven't heard this idiom before?
Does that mean the middle finger?
No. Oh, yeah, you could lift your middle finger. Ivan must know that one. That's true. That's another lift. We won't go there, I hope. My mother always does this, read between the lines. She used to always do that. Only she would lift them up and wiggle them. Yeah. No, that's not nice. No, but when you lift a finger, this expression comes from when there's perhaps a party and lots of preparations that need to be done. And so one of the guests comes early under the guise of saying she's there to help. And she puts the napkins on the table and then sits down with a drink. So she's not really doing much more than lifting a finger. She's doing very, very little to help. So when you want someone to help, they need more than one finger's worth of effort, right? To get their hands messy and jump in. So she never lifts a finger. She doesn't even put the napkins on the table, or he just plunks down on the couch and watches TV and does nothing else after he comes home from work. Right? Stereotypes that are not safe to talk about anymore. But that's an expression I've heard many times in my life. Don't know if I've ever seen it on a sitcom, but
so what does it mean? Planks down? Planks down? What does that mean?
Down. Yeah, I thought maybe that was not so familiar. So when you sit heavily, you come in from work, and you sit on the couch, you plunk down with a stronger motion than just sitting down. You sort of collapse. And many a husband used to do this after work. Or if the remotes weren't in existence yet, you'd get wife or children to turn the TV on and leave me alone. Again, stereotypes that we're not allowed to use anymore. No longer politically correct. So the wives get to plunk down and tell everybody else to get dinner.
Prepare the dinner.
Ivan, you're too quiet. There must be something in here you can grab onto and comment on.
I'm muted because behind me it's time for praying and they're singing.
Okay, I might forgive you then. So the challenge today is to share things that are uplifting. So I this morning was cold. We had our first hard frost last night. And when I went outside to walk Magnus this morning, I heard a child laughing, neighborhood child laughing. And I was thinking how nice that sound is when it's someone else's child, especially, and you don't have them all day. But but even if it's your own child, it's a kids laughter, laughing with glee at some little thing they see is a wonderful mood lifter for me. Um, and I was trying to remember times that I laughed as a kid, or that when I was a teacher in elementary school, or experiences with Amber, trying to remember times when kids were laughing. And I thought you might have stories of times when you just had fun laughter. I don't know if there's a campground story or family stories, but share a smile, share an uplifting time. What makes, what time of year, what holidays, what seasons, what experiences lift your spirit? Right.
And
Lots of
this summer, I had a call of mine that working at night, and he liked to mimic like he was a gay person, you know, like talking like a gay, but a fun, you know, in a funny way. And he contagious. He how do you say we contagious?
the
Contagious, you know,
laughter was contagious. The
and the
laughter.
way of speaking, this way that pretending being gay, so everybody mimic him. And he was a very fat guy, very funny.
Yeah.
We had a great time
Mm.
with him.
Mocking someone else, right?
No mocking. It's not. It was not mocking.
Right? Is it or isn't it? That's something that many gays now, because in the US, most places people are out now and able to be good humored. And most of the gay guys I know don't talk like that or act like that. But certainly there have been stereotypes, truth in examples, and they mock their friends that are like that, or younger guys, especially, who are trying to act gay to fit in with the gay crowd. So it's hard to know whether that's insulting or not.
But
I stay away from it because right? Because I live in this crazy time.
you know, most colleagues, most people working the campsite thought that this guy was gay. Because this was his second year here, and the first year, most people thought that this guy is gay.
And so is he making fun to try and fit in better? So
No,
I don't know. I have
no.
a hard time with that because it can be funny, but it's been used as abuse or as offensive many times. So that's an example where I would probably leave the room or try to get people to stop doing that, because I find it awkward and inappropriate without everyone knowing what's really happening. So it's hard. Ivan might have something to say about that. I don't know if he can speak yet, but another example of how much has changed, because I spent years seeing that kind of, appreciating that kind of humor, participating in it sometimes, and not realizing enough, not thinking enough, maybe, or I don't know. It's hard to be funny about anything anymore.
And nowadays, making jokes about gays is not politically correct.
Or about guys, or about girls,
or about disabled people.
It is harder. I have a hard time watching comics, comedians. I cringe, and my family often tells me I have no sense of humor, but I'm
It's
sensitive,
hard.
emotional.
It's hard being a comedian without, making fun of anybody or anything.
Right, right. And I laugh so often. I laugh first, and then I look, oh, I shouldn't be
I
laughing.
shouldn't laughing.
Right, right. And what kind of person am I? But some things are funny, and I mock myself and laugh at myself about things that other people would take offense at. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It is a crazy time to raise a boy, right? Raise a girl, raise a boy, raise a child. How do you navigate? I want to hear funny, uplifting stories from Ivan about his kids. Not yet.
Actually, they always have only uplifting stories, so it's hard for me to distinguish them among others. It's all the same all the time.
Yeah, but just to share a story. What's interaction with someone that they've met on all your
Well,
travels?
They just were in little. They just had a little bit adventure. They took a wrong train, and they, instead of short train, they arrived to another town. So it was an unplanned adventure. But my younger guy, middle guy, came to me and say, "Father, at least we bought this magic water for you." So it was our goal.
Yeah, so they're creative ways of cheering you up. So you said they took a wrong train. I hope you or your wife was with them when they took a wrong train.
I was working today, and they planned like a small, like traveling to closest village, and my wife with them went there. But they made a mistake, and it's easy to make this mistake because everything in Arabic and French, and these trains are not very regular. So
Oh no.
they just
So they had a
look it.
longer trip than planned too.
So they just look it on the timetable and decided this one is ours, but it wasn't true. and then without any stops, boom, 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 they crossed the Lobs.
Wow. And magic water got them home, huh? They brought magic water back to dad.
Yeah, but when children don't understand that, and when they ask it why we do that, my wife told them that it's all for magic water. So
excellent.
so
Good
now I have
yeah. When you talked about that going someplace you didn't intend, so any other stories come to mind when you took a wrong turn or missed a turn and ended up somewhere different?
It happened to me many times, a lot of times. Recently, I went to a language meetup in Malaga, in Spain, and I usually use Google Map for navigation because I don't know, I don't have paper maps or something like this. So, and instead of Casa Brennan or something like this, I wrote. I made a mistake in the address.
Typo
Yeah.
can be dangerous on Google Maps.
Yeah, and I arrived in a place which is 150 kilometers from that one I needed. And it was it was a very, I can't say very dangerous, but it was, a place like a dog place, just a lot of, criminals, prostitutes around and something like this, industrial place. And I'm there looking for my language meetup. So I immediately was like surprised what is going on.
And maybe not the best question to ask strangers in such a place as you're looking for a language meetup. Oh, wow. Yeah, ending up on the wrong side of the tracks. I use wrong turns to find new gardens and new flowers and new architecture and fun things to notice. I love just turning on a side road, get off the main highway and just explore Warren's usually good for it for a couple hours, and then he wants to get back on the interstate. But it's fun what you can find. So, Gerard, you cruise around in that cute little blue car. You ever take a wrong turn?
Not really, because my Google Maps work very well, and I don't travel too far. I don't go to strange places.
Wow. I remember it felt like a wrong turn, and Gerard was there that drive up to the bed and breakfast we stayed at in the pre-Pyrenees in the mountains. That felt like a wrong turn. That was quite an adventure. Begonia's husband, Carlos. I don't think you've met them, Ivan?
No.
No. He had a very nice vehicle and offered to drive us.
His Mercedes.
And his Mercedes, yeah. Oh dear. And it was an interesting experience being in the back seat listening to him as he was not sure what to do and how far to go. I kept offering to walk the rest of the way and he wouldn't stop, but that was an adventure. What a fun place. Yeah, so I like those adventures because I learned to by my father, from my father. He loved to do this too, and he would aim for the potholes to make the ride bumpy and jumpy and have us all hopping around in the car. And my mom would scream, Tom, Tom, slow down, stop. But my father thought it was great. So I learned to enjoy such experiences more from my father. My husband had an opposite experience. His being raised riding around with his father. His father did not enjoy long routes or mistakes and find the quickest way to the job. Yeah. So do you teach your boys to get lost on purpose?
Well, yes, I teach them to them use cards, use maps, use coordinates, and all those things. And how to say it, they are able to find the path inside the forest, for instance. Yes, and my older boy is very good in navigating, very good, better than me. Yeah, in especially in towns. And when we returned to Spain 1 year after our first visit, he just remembered everything. Just went there and there is my favorite ice cream, and let's go there swim. It's just like an open book for him. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And usually when we travel, they have more time than I am. I always work, and I have my free time only during the evening. So it's like a job for my older boy to get me and show me the most fascinating places which he discovered during the day. So and he does it like without any mistakes, there and there and there, without any problem. But this is just a training.
Yeah. It's a skill that many people don't have anymore, along with making change or using their quick, easy math brains here. So many people cannot read a paper map and are lost if they have to try and understand a misstep on Google. And I'm just now very belatedly, maybe not, seeing Gerard's note, a question.
Yes, a question for Ivan. Do you allow your son to walk on the streets alone?
Not in Spain, because in Spain people try to stop him and say, who is this, where are his parents? But in Russia it's something normal. Yeah. In Russia our children are free.
Yes, in Spain it was many decades ago. When I was a child, it was normal. But nowadays, not normal anymore.
Yes, we had a lot of problems with that. People try to grab him and stop him and ask him about something, but he cannot explain well, so it's always a problem. in my place in Russia, he's old enough for for walking with dog or something like this, for going for shopping like this.
Yeah, it is such a different world here too, where it's so rare to see children, even in our neighborhood, which feels safe. It's rare to see a kid out by him or herself.
Is it true that in America, even a teenager walking on the street at a time that should be at a school or higher school, the police stop them and ask them, "What are you doing?"
Sure. Yeah. Truancy. Yeah, parents can be arrested, fined. There's a process depending on where you are. Yeah. Not as much anymore for children more than 12, 13, 14-year-old-ish, because so many now have half-day schools or different situations. So it depends on where you are, but truancy is a terrible problem here. It's not very uplifting, but is that a challenge in your areas? Do a lot of kids skip school? Forget the word for skip. There's another British English word for skipping school is different. I forget what it is. But to not go to school, is this a problem? Or to go to school perpetually late? Hour, 2 hour, 3 hours late many times a year. Is this a problem in your countries?
Well, when I was in school, it wasn't a problem at all, because as far as I remember, there were not like strong demands for that I must be in school at that time. So it's often I can oversleep or something, so be late or go away from the school early. So it's never was a problem. But now can be different. I'm not sure. Can be different because we had. I don't know, because all of this paranoia in society. We just afraid of everything, as anywhere. So now in school we have security or something like this. We have this registration when child come in, when he comes out, and all the things.
And Gerard, in Spain?
I'm not aware of, because I don't have children. I don't know what's different nowadays.
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay. Yeah, it's often in the news here, the statistics of truancy. Some schools lose credit rating and lose their accreditation if they have too many children truant. Every school, I think every elementary, middle school, and high school now, certainly every high school has a truancy officer, an employee whose job it is to call and checks contact numbers and tries to get people in school all day long and keeps track, because they fail and have to be held back another year if they miss so many days. My parents used to get in trouble with this when they planned vacations, like Ivan's doing now, or worried about future being able to. Even if it's an educational experience, the schools frown upon missing too many days. And my father knew that it was better for us to travel with them than to worry about school. But they track it carefully. It's on your report cards, and people contact you, notify your employers, do lots of things to try and get children to be in school where they're supposed to be.
At the beginning of the classes in Spain, there was a list with the names of the students in alphabetical order. How do you call that, saying the names?
Attendance list.
Attendance. Is there a verb about?
Take attendance.
Okay.
That's the first thing that's done, is to take attendance.
But when you are saying the names, like by okay.
Roll call is another another term?
Roll call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more often military, but also used in any situation. Yeah. Yeah, this is done in homerooms, and then kids go to all different classrooms after homeroom period. Here, you start the day in a room with your homeroom teacher, and then someone comes and collects, or I'm sure now it's done just by clicking the computer keyboard key. Used to be different when I was responsible for that. You have to turn it in or send someone to the office with the attendant.
When you explain that, I started to understand that our system is much different. We don't have no one like truancy officer or no like rules about these days or something. So they probably will not be happy, teachers, about a lot of day off, but they will like just try to speak with you. But all we have at the end, our children have to pass exam. So that's all. You don't have to have like 30% attendance. It's no one asked for that. And when I was talking about skipping school, I mean that our system, it just prevent to children leave school if they took inside. If they like came into school, it's hard for them to like go out whenever they want.
So once they're there, the school has responsibility, but until they're there, the school doesn't.
But if they just don't go to the school this day, it's problem of parents, not of the school. No one cares. But I read interesting article that in France, I don't know why, but parents have to write a special paper to the school. Why? Like excuse why my child have not visited the school. Yes, and because no one, of course, reads these excuses, and it's just a formality. People do it in very funny way. So I read a lot of funny excuses.
Yeah, these are required in the U.S. too. If you miss more than one day, you must have a written. If you miss a full day, the teachers expect a note. But if you miss 2 consecutive days, you must have a note to be allowed back in class. Otherwise, they hold you in the office until your parent or caregiver comes with such note. Yeah, strange, but yeah, the notes can be quite humorous sometimes. There was a comment recently, someone posted on Facebook that gave me pause. I don't know if I've used this expression much. Gave me pause is an expression meaning made me stop and think. And someone wrote about how in the US, in almost every job, I don't know if, I guess it depends on employers unless you're government employed, in which it is a requirement. But if you miss more than 2 days of work, you cannot come back to work without a note from a doctor if you expect to get paid. If you don't bring a note back from a physician, you will not be paid as sick day if you're taking them as a sick day. So it can count off your vacation days, or it can count off your other benefit hours you might have accumulated, but it will not come off of your banked sick days if you don't have a note. And I realized this would have been very true for me for many, many years, is that's an unfair treatment of privilege, because it costs $100 and some to visit a doctor. So you have to pay out of pocket, and hardly anyone's insurance will cover that anymore without at least a $100 deductible or higher. And that's an unfair practice, very much so, in today's health insurance challenge. And I hadn't thought about that you don't want people at work sick, but they have to be. or else lose more money. It's strange, the things we create, the systems we create.
So, does the word truancy, do you use the word truancy for absenteeism in work, in workplace?
You could, tardy. So if you have repeated tardiness, if you're late more often, if you're truant from work, you're fired if you don't have an excuse. So it's not, I don't remember ever using it talking about workplace situation. But could be, might be that way in some people's records. Do you ever have that trouble with employees at the campground? Seasonal work often suffers more from.
Sometimes these people come during the summer to work, but they have some health problems, and they take leave. Is it correct to use the word take leave when you have a health problem and you go to the doctor and the doctor say, okay, you need 2 weeks or 3 weeks of rest?
So take leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a leave of absence is the term that would be used, a leave of absence. And it can be long, if it's health related, it's short-term or long-term disability are terms that would be used. After the birth of a baby, fathers and mothers now have benefits with bigger companies now have benefits for a leave of absence where they get to stay home. So parental leave. So they give them all kinds of names to match what type of leave. So a medical leave or a parental leave. Yeah. So an uplifting story that could be used. I don't know if this was some silly thing. I know the British did this. I don't know if this were done. Do you still have phone booths anywhere in existence?
Yes, we have it,
You
and
still-
it's a funny commercial story. We don't have old phone booths for decades, but recently, last year like this, one mobile operator put them back, and it's now free calls if you call to numbers of this operator. It's just like a promotion. So you can.
Place or?
Everywhere they put this phone booths, and they're free. You can you can call, but you can call only two numbers that served by this operator. So it's just a commercial, yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were going to tell me it was a charging station. A place to charge your mobile phone. You don't see them at all anymore, Gerard?
No.
No. So we rarely see them. There are a lot of jokes about them, but there was something that we used to do as teenagers and college kids with elevator lifts and with phone booths. Any idea what that might be? That would be some silly thing, activity, that challenge that people would participate in. Oh, and also VW bugs, little Volkswagen Beetles, little cars. No? Try to get in the Guinness Book of Records. Guinness World Book of Records. No? How many people can you fit inside a telephone booth? How many people can you fit in an elevator? The elevators have these signs that say you're only allowed so much weight or so many people, but it was a goofy thing we used to do, is to see how many people we could fit in.
Yeah. And often they say 3 people, but the weight is very low. Like everybody weighs only 70 kilograms.
Right. Yeah. I can't remember how many we fit, but we used to do We used to cram in there.
Did you had to get stuck inside an elevator?
You had to be stuck in an elevator. I have never been really stuck. I had one stop once with about this much clearance, so we had to jump down, and it was open in between subfloor. But never been stuck. Have you?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
I had.
How
Because
long?
I think half an hour. I think the reason was too much weight, because the
Oh.
elevator, 3 people or 4 people, but the weight, the power it was very low,
Oh.
and we called the firefighters.
So the emergency phone worked inside
I
the.
don't know. Maybe I don't remember whether we used the emergency phone or our mobile phones.
Oh, yeah. Who needs them now with mobile phones? Yeah. Ivan, you ever been stuck in an elevator?
Yeah, many times.
Really?
Yep.
A common.
Well, I don't know why. When I was a child, it happened to me many times. I don't know why. Maybe we jump into something like this. I cannot remember. Maybe we misbehave somehow, but it happened.
For any length of time?
It's
Any
never too long. It's never too long because we have like special service. You just press the button and there is a saver.
Yeah. I've often wondered with the. That's why I needed this uplifting hour today, because there's too much paranoia, as Ivan said. But I keep trying not to worry about how terrorist attacks on electrical things might be something I will have experience with in my lifetime. And I was thinking about all the high-rise buildings and people stuck for how long. And I don't know how easy or difficult it is to extract people from an elevator where there's no electric and won't be any electric for an unknown length of time. But what does when the power goes out, aren't people stuck?
I don't know whether there is an emergency generator.
Yeah. I don't know if that's mandatory in high rises or not, but I was thinking that would make for an interesting nightmarish experience. Especially with all the rats. Oh, too many rats in the cities. The rats are going to take over New York.
Speaking about uplifting stories, so you talking about rats as about something disgusting. But yesterday, I have to walk about 1 kilometer to the place where my boys saw the rat because it's very important for them. Yes, so we go there to watch it, to try to find it again, and they were really like
Fascinated.
fascinated. Yeah.
By the rat. Yeah, I can see how I probably would have been as a kid too. Oh.
Yeah. One of my boy draw the rat.
Drew?
Another
Yeah.
one drew. Yeah. Another one participated and asked, no, tail was longer and tried to correct. So it was an adventure.
Test of their observation skills, huh? Do you have rats at the campground? I don't know if we should ask that on a recorded call or not, but
I think there are some
you have to deal with. Yeah,
but I don't usually see them. But we control them. We poison and other things.
Yeah. Not a happy thought they are, but it reminds me of a story that is funnier. My brother has 2 daughters, two girls, and when they were probably like 7 and 9, somewhere around these ages, they were visiting my mom and dad, visiting grandpa and grandma, and my mom walked out their front porch, and they had a large bush off on the side of the porch, and there was a big black snake inside the bush. And Mom wanted to show it to the girls, so they're like, she's whispering, "Tammy, Marcy, come here." And their reactions were totally opposite. So Tammy was like, "Eek!" and ran back in the house, and Marcy was like, "Oh, look," and putting her hand right in to grab for the snake and pick it up, because she trusted Grandma that it was a harmless snake. And she was observing the length and how it moved and how it felt, and Tammy was a mile away, wanting absolutely nothing to do with it. Yeah, snakes are fascinating. I can remember visiting the zoo with Amber, and she would always have to go back several times to try and catch the feeding schedule and watch the thing, whatever they fed the snake moving through. Mm-hmm. All right, Gerard's turn. What's an uplifting story you can share with us? Something you've heard about or experienced or remember.
Difficult now.
This
I don't
is not
know.
supposed to be so hard. Ah. Ah. Not awful. I can't. We should have long lists of funny things. How about a English cafe or Loop or English online? Teacher Lee. Teacher Lee gives you some uplifting moments. His dog. I remember his stories about his dogs.
Yeah, but his dog is dead.
Aww.
Was it? Yeah.
Happens.
He has new dogs.
He does have new dogs or not?
Yes, he has.
Puppies? Is he training puppies?
They are small and always barking.
Do you hear them when you're online?
Yes, I do, because sometimes I attend classes with him.
So you get dogs yipping as extra bonus lessons. Huh? Yvonne, do you have pets? Gerard, do you have pets? Do either of you have pets?
I don't.
Yes, I have fish. I have fish tanks. I have dog. I have parrot.
A parrot, really?
Yeah.
And
Does he
who's taking care
speak
of
English?
Someone trustworthy who will be greatly appreciated. Huh? I forgot your fish tank. I remember that when we saw it in the background. That's something one of these years I should probably get from my husband. He's been wanting a fish tank since I met him. But he doesn't want to do the work. He wants someone else to take care of it. So it hasn't happened yet. Any fun fish stories? Fish stories can be a story about a big fish you caught, or it can be a story literally about your fish. Any fun stories about fish?
Like the book, I remember the book, The Old Man and the Sea.
Yeah, we're actually going to read that again in my book, one of the book clubs I'm in. I'll have some memories there. Yeah, it was a fun read. We're going to read several Ernest Hemingway stories. I was thinking as we were talking about which stories to read that with the Me Too movement might come into our discussion. Gosh, the portrayal in literature. I can see the classes being planned on college campuses. Revisit literature in a new light. We thought feminism ripped books apart before. Wait till now. Right? Oh, goodness. Yeah. I can share, I don't know if this is uplifting or not, but might find it interesting. I did. As part of my job, they have an annual that my employer really is the University of William and Mary, and they have an annual survey they send out to all employees, no matter where you work or what you do. And I took the survey today, and as a college campus, they're concerned, and as an old fashioned college, they're concerned about being properly attentive to diversity. And on the form that asked you at the end to how you identify, I think there were 11 choices and then other, if one of them wasn't right. But so cisgender, bisexual, born female but want to be male. There were all these possible choices, and the other, and please help us by what else should be on this list. And I'm just curious as to what sorts of answers they get, responses they get, and how it used to be just male or female, M or F. Mm. Do you encounter that at all at public, I don't know, banks or credit cards or any other forms you fill out? Travel, do they ask you to identify?
Cannot remember. At least not with. Maybe I fill out the form in Morocco, registration form on the border. Yeah, but it was male and female. Holy outside the America is a normal word still.
Male and female.
Ah, I don't know.
But I think in Spain there is no problem. If there is a man that wants to be a woman and had a surgery, then this man can become a woman. In
Not
the
without as much red tape as they have in here. Huh? Yeah, it's interesting report I read recently. I did not research to try and verify how truthful the numbers were, but it was written by a teenager and his parents. She, at a very young age, he was born as female. Genitalia was female, and at a very young age, I don't remember if it was before she talked, but very early on, adamantly was a boy, not a girl. And they talked with the pediatrician about it many times, the parents wanting to do right by their child, and took the child to several pediatricians. And one of the doctors gave them the advice to let the child live as the child wishes to live. And so now the boy is 15 years old and has always lived as a boy. Used a name, I think the name was Tyler, which can be male or female, and was a boy, but now getting more active in sports and finding it harder to remain unknown that he looks like a girl when his clothes are off, and is still adamantly boy. And at around age 6, I think was the age the doctor said was safe. Since age 6 has been taking pills or hormone shots or something to try and prevent getting a period and prevent breasts from developing, and trying to be as boyish as possible. And now thinking, I guess that makes the surgery easier if they've been this way for so long. but I'm reading more and more stories of parents trying to talk about how common this is. And I guess the numbers of births that are visibly mixed up with genitals is more common than I ever thought. And doctors don't always tell the parents. Sometimes they take right to surgery and change something. And of course, that's harder to do in the US. But I cannot imagine. I have no idea how I would have reacted if Amber was given to me part female, part male. I don't. The joy and the energy involved in giving birth, and then to have to make that choice so quickly is something not easy to talk about, and so most people don't. But wow, when do you tell the child? When? Yeah. So it's not just in the US, but certainly we are a weirder world than some places. But so many things out in the open now, and I don't know if that's uplifting or a wrong move. I just don't know. Don't know, but so many.
In Spain, I remember, I know that many decades ago, people who use the left hand,
Yes.
were forced to use the right hand. How do you call people that use the left hand?
Ambidextrous. If you use both, you're ambidextrous. And so left-handed or right-handed.
Okay, left-handed or right-handed.
Yeah.
So I read that
there's a 15%. Used to be considered different. And
yes. And the word right, dextrose, it has a positive connotation, and left is like bad connotation,
Yeah.
And politics is the same.
Even more so in different cultures, right? Left hand's used for one thing. You never shake with your left hand. Yeah, there's a lot of beliefs around this. Now, more often we hear positive things about left-handed people. My younger brother is left-handed, and he's often sharing how that makes him better. I didn't, till my brother was born, I didn't, we're 9 years apart, but I don't remember knowing anything about left-handedness until he was born. And
was he forced to write with his right hand?
No, but teachers were worried and talked to my parents about it a few times. My parents, I think my father's response was, this was my father's cuss word. Balderdash. Oh, that's supposed to be an L. Balderdash. I have no idea where that expression comes from. But
Balderdash. What does that mean?
Hogwash. This is when you want to swear and you're not supposed to, right? These are silly words that come up. So balderdash and hogwash. He didn't believe it. It was fine. But I can remember little whispers with my parents. And quite a bit of literature, Victorian era literature, talks about left-handed and the foreheads, right? The measure, I forget what you call it when you measure the size of your forehead to see how smart or stupid you are. People's parlors would have these instruments that would measure and let you know which room you were invited to, who you were invited to associate with. So how do people interesting way to end up today. And maybe Yvonne, because you've been traveling so much, how do you see people separate or group or different caste levels, status levels? How do people situate themselves? It's much more mixed than it used to be almost everywhere for me. So it could be by the way you were dressed, like have to have a suit and tie to enter some places, or shoes off or shoes on, or the type of shoes. So what kinds of things do you observe at all, anywhere? Restaurants, theaters? Gerard.
One thing that low-class people should have, and now posh people also have is tattoos. Everybody has tattoos.
Tattoos.
It's incredible.
As a status, as
I
a
don't
plus,
know,
right?
visible tattoos, because
Visible, right?
but everybody, even wealthy people or high-class people, I don't like them.
understand it, but yes, I agree that is something more and more observed. Anything you can think of, Yvonne, that separates people?
Hard to say, because I'm not attentive to this. I don't care really about all these classes and all these things.
Airports, I mean, it used to be a lot more obvious, but well, it used to be blue jeans, but I mean, blue jeans are universal now. Yeah.
But when I travel, I'm not trying to. I try not to be too posh. I never. I'm more like traditional places. Like I really do like local cafes for poor people more than posh restaurants. So I always visit them. It's once a month probably I visit like posh restaurants just to compare and forget it again. Yeah, so.
And do you ever encounter times where like you're seated in a different area because you're not local? Do you ever feel that there is a separatism?
In a funny way, in a funny way. In Vietnam, they have plastic chairs. But if you know my size, I can be like 3 Vietnam people usually. So whenever they saw me, they bring me metal chair. So it was always different.
Well, that's something they probably wouldn't have bothered with in the U.S. So hooray for them being courteous and trying to ensure your safety. Interesting. Wow. Yeah, I can remember many such cautions growing up, but today it seems like there's much less division by attire or appearance in most places.
In some places, when people understand that I'm obviously a foreigner and it's not a place where foreigners usually are, sometimes I have special service, special place or something like this. People start to want to show their best. I saw that a few times, but usually it's very special places. It's hard to describe them, but usually it's places where tourists not go usually.
Yeah, those are the best places. That's how I like to travel. Just thinking it's been 4 years since I went to Europe, but I was thinking the other day about all the different places I got to see that others wouldn't bother to. And it was the best parts of the trip. So many of them. Interesting. It's what makes the world go around, right? So lift your spirits, Yvonne, and let lift enter your vocabulary. Many use. And thank you for helping this be a more smiley hour. And we can go back to whatever next time. And hope you adjust to your schedule there, Gerard.
Yeah, next time I will call you from Moscow already.
You didn't mention, so I wondered if you were still heading back. Yeah. All right. Well, your wife is special, so it's good that you're getting a dose of home security again. All right.
Home.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.